Hi, I'm Cynthia Phelps, and we're here tonight in San Antonio, Texas for Health 2.0 San Antonio. Health 2.0, we're a local chapter of an international organization that is geared towards supporting folks who are in the health tech sector and have Nate from Small Biz Triage joining us, and he is going to be sharing his expertise about how to do marketing in the health tech sector. And we're excited to have him today, and I am just going to turn it over to him and let him introduce himself and tell you a little bit about his company.
All right. Thank you for the intro, Cynthia. I'm going to go ahead and just dive right in here. I'm Nate. Started Small Biz Triage about 5 years ago and do marketing for lots of different businesses. And over the past few years, a lot of healthcare and healthcare IT businesses. Before going into marketing, I was a healthcare IT recruiter. So I became adept at interpreting the alphabet soup that is the healthcare IT space. So gonna have to admit that when I first talked to Cynthia about this, she said, yeah, we'd do like a marketing talk for my chapter. So we talked about some different topics, and I gave her a couple example topics, and she's like, yeah, healthcare marketing. I'm like, okay, sure. We'll talk about how it's different. So about 2 weeks ago, I had a mild panic attack when I realized that healthcare marketing is nearly identical to every other kind of marketing. And so I'm sitting there looking at all my case studies, thumbing through all of my successes, all of my failures, trying to figure out, okay, what is the main difference between regular modern marketing and healthcare IT marketing. So what I realized is the only, outside of regulatory concerns, which we won't talk about today, the only difference is the community that you're dealing with. There's a lot of unique things about the healthcare community and where the healthcare and IT community intersect. So the way that I like to explain this to folks is using a concept, which hopefully my high-tech electronic whiteboard doesn't fail me today. It's a concept, ecosystems. Now, by definition, ecosystem is an interdependent collection of communities. And most of you all know what a community is. You got a group of folks, they depend on each other, they have some sort of common set of values. Well, an ecosystem is a collection of those communities. And in the healthcare space, it gets a bit unique because you have your traditional medicine, you have the IT space, you've got the redheaded stepchild of IT, the startup space. We've got alternative medicine. This is going to look really messy, and don't worry about it. It's supposed to look like a blob, I swear. You've got some of the fringe communities, like the infrastructure that goes into healthcare. You've got the mobile communities. You got all of these different interdependent communities, and frankly, there's no clear way to define the difference of them. So today I want to help you, equip you with some tools to help learn more about this community. And once we map the ecosystem that your startup, your company is in, we'll be able to pinpoint where you should be focusing your efforts and how you should be approaching those tasks. So we've got our ecosystem. Now usually, I would say 99% of the time, if you are in a space that's, say, we'll just use a simple, a mobile app. All right, so say you built a mobile app, or you're building a mobile app, and you've got a certain set of clients. We'll use Cynthia as an example. She, her services and tools and this empire she's building is specifically in the place of mental health. And that specific area has its own sub-communities. It's got, on all sides, every side of the spectrum, every single piece of it, it's got different aspects to it, different layers to it. But to keep it simple, in the mental health space, everyone knows that's in the room and joining us virtually today that the key to any business, I mean, business in a nutshell, is you have a product or a service, stick it in front of a prospective customer, they see value in it, they give you money in exchange. All right? So the problem that we see, though, is that if you're in, say, a lot of the folks in healthcare IT actually didn't start from traditional healthcare. They started over here with IT. They started with IT. So their background is in perhaps software development, or maybe their community was working in a large healthcare system, or perhaps they didn't have any healthcare industry experience at all before. Maybe they just came from a regular startup world. Either way, they're in this IT space. But in the case of mental health, you need to be able to get in front of those communities, the mental health communities, the clusters of people that might want and desire your product and or service and or app, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what ends up having to happen is we've got to find out how to get you from this space here to this space here. So the way that we do that is we map the ecosystem. So I'm going to go ahead and dump this and just hop into the next page here. We're going to map the ecosystem. So in the case of healthcare, a lot of the end goal here is that people that'll buy an healthcare app or a tool or purchase a subscription service, they want something. They want a tool. Maybe it's in the B2B space. Maybe it's in the wellness space. So right off the bat, we've got two separations. We've got B2B, and we've got the B2C, business to consumer. So under this healthcare umbrella. Well, that by itself is not good enough, as you know. And everyone always says, what's the cliche, you know, find your niche, attack your niche. Problem is a niche is a moving target. What you should find instead is the target communities that you need to be spending time with. The clusters of people that have any interest at all, potential interest in what you're doing. So in the case of mental health, there is, in the business to consumer space, there are people that are looking for personal productivity tools. That would be a section of it. There's people looking for ways to cope with addiction. That's another space. So you've got all these different spaces where people have something that they want. And some of these are interconnected and some of them are not. And that's okay. In the B2B space, you'll have folks like, for example, a clinic that needs a better scheduling tool. So that would be clinics. And you've got a community of healthcare administrators, office managers, people that are actually in the business of helping these people over here. So the exercise that we need to go through is we actually need to break down this ecosystem and see where the interdependency lies. So in the case of, we'll just use B2C, so you're going direct to consumer with it, right? So you've got someone who's like, hey, you want this? Give me your money and I'll buy it. Versus in B2B, it's like, hey, do you want this to help you make money for your business or to help the people that you're trying to help? But in the B2C space, we've got to map out the ecosystem. So in this case, what we could do is look at the overlaps. We look at the overlaps. We look at, okay, for example, let's use alternative medicine as just a case study right now. So in alternative medicine, you've got this large spectrum of things, and on the far end, you've got the stuff that is very spiritually oriented on this side over here. So this is the spiritual, the oriented side over here. Then you've got the real hard medicine over here. And in this section, there's tons of overlaps. You've got like your Reiki over here, and you've got your acupuncture over here, and you've got your osteopaths over here, and then you got your traditional. So you work your way across, but you do have overlaps. You have clusters of people that practice in multiple areas. So you'll have a select few that practice maybe 3 or 4 different types of medicine in that overlap area. So you find these overlaps and identify those communities. And you dig in even farther and find out what else outside of healthcare feeds those communities. What else depends on those communities? So right now, I'm going to dump this again here. So we're going to look at, we'll just use alternative medicine. Say an app in the alternative medicine space. So right now we've got our main area, okay? This is alternative medicine. And we've already identified some of the overlapping communities between, say, like osteopaths and acupuncture and naturopaths. And we know that there's people that actually intersect both communities there. But in that space there, you have people that provide them tools. You have memberships in societies. You have certification programs. You have different things on the fringes that doesn't directly involve this. The computers that they use, the facilities that they're in. Think about what type of person would actually buy in those spaces. Because if you're selling to these people here, the actual, in this case, a B2B example, if you're selling to acupuncturists and naturopaths and Reiki special massage therapists, then you need to think about where their clients are. And oftentimes it is not, and here's really important here, it is not in a straight line. There's very few exceptions where the path and the connection between one entity and another is a straight line. So we look at the cars that they drive, all of the different aspects of their personality, the food that they eat. So we'll use food as an example. Where do these people eat? Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. That is part of the ecosystem. Those companies rely on these communities of alternative medicine professionals. They rely on those communities to keep educating their patients and their fans that you need to be healthy. They're already doing a lot of the work. So it makes sense for them to spend time cultivating that. And it has become, and they are part of that ecosystem. Okay? So we're going to jump back into the IT space for a second here. So we start mapping things out. So, okay, this is where my customers are. These are the communities that they're involved in. They're usually involved in more than one community. They may be involved in taking yoga classes, or they may be involved in the startup community. Health 2.0 is a very IT-focused organization, but that still relies on subject matter experts. They rely on people within the industry, outside of IT, outside of the world of startups and funding and angel investors and the Silicon Valley, outside of that space. So the punchline of this whole spiel is the main thing you do with the marketing is tactically, this stuff is very easy. Tactically, the actual technique that you use for marketing is very simple if you map your ecosystem. Because if you understand that, yes, I am in this ecosystem here, and your potential customers are in this ecosystem here, you need to figure out how to travel there, how to actually connect with these people. And the thing is that where your customers are, ecosystems by nature build walls around them. They're like communities. They're like old castles. They build walls around them. They don't want to keep people trying to sell them crap out. Let's keep these people out. So in order to get in, sometimes you have to go a roundabout way. Sometimes you might have to leverage the fact that these people all shop at the same grocery store, because they're going to be building these major walls because everyone else is trying to sell to them too. So what ends up happening is sometimes you have to take a roundabout route and find some sort of middle ground between the two. In the case of selling an app into, trying to use a lot of different examples today, into clinics. Selling directly to clinics. Yeah, I could go knock on doors and say, hey, I got an awesome app here. But when you're selling your app for like $2.99, that's a lot of doors you got to be kicking down. Yeah, you can run a major ad campaign, but who's clicking on ads now anymore? The best way to do is figure out how to get in front of them en masse and get in front of them with their permission. Now, many of you may have heard all this stuff about permission-based marketing. Short version is you get in front of people that want to listen to you. And in order to earn that space on that table, sometimes you have to work your way there. Sometimes you may have to find a middle ground and spend time cultivating that relationship with that community. So what I want to do now, actually, to get us our head out of the clouds and actually work on stuff that you could actually use with your businesses, is I want to open it up, and I want to maybe get a few folks in the room there to talk about their business, and we'll actually here live we're gonna workshop this and look at how we can map it out, and then what techniques we could use to get in front of those people and get in front of the influencers. The influencers are the intersectors, the people that are able to travel between those communities with authority. So, Seth, if you could go ahead and see if we could get some questions in, that would be awesome.
Hello, we're not muted anymore. Do you want to give an example here? Okay, we've got Christine Burke, and she is,
I'm a technology licensing associate at the UT Health Science Center, so I help move technologies out of the university into companies.
So out of the university into...
And try to commercialize developments from the university and get them into companies so they can...
So they're spinning out startups from the university, basically. They're the tech transfer office. So I was just wondering if you had an example of, say, a product that you have that we might put through the process.
Well, there's this one project that the student and a professor that have developed a new algorithm for matching the results of all the personalized medicine that you can test for and trying to match that up to all the medicines that are available to allow a doctor to, you know, create the best matchup of potential medicines that are out there. And that's something that they're working on.
So is this a web application, software? What flavor of product or service?
Software currently.
Software.
And,
okay.
Yeah.
And who would buy this software? Is this hospitals, clinics, private practice?
Yeah, that's the trick that we're starting to explore, is who needs to buy it. The idea is who would use it, doctors to help their patients, but also companies to help move clinical studies forward because they could look at all the markers, biomarkers that they see and compare it to other
Okay.
other studies that are out there. There's a huge body of literature that they're tapping into.
And, okay, so in this case, it's kind of so we'll just use that example right here, because the university to the biz world problem is takes a whole different approach, actually. So in this case, when you're having difficulty narrowing it down, for example, if you go to a certain thing and you put this product maybe in beta form in front of, say, some hospitals, put it in front of some hospitals, some doctors in hospitals, and they're not receptive to it. You know, they're not eating what you're dishing out. In that case, before potentially abandoning that potential revenue stream, you need to be asking why a whole lot. So the technique here, when you're trying to explore which community you need to be investing the most time in, is it's very exploratory. You're going without selling. And if you've already, and I've done this plenty of times, I was like, wow, I dove into my sales pitch way too early in the conversation, and they just kind of tuned me out. The thing is even when you hit roadblocks like that, a technique that I would use, it's very simple, is just to be brutally honest. So I was like, listen, we're trying to get this thing going, and it's obvious you're not loving it. Okay, could you tell us why? Because we want, and here's the key phrase here, we want to get better. We want to get better, and we think that you are the perfect person to ask to help us get better. So that does two things, and that phrase could be customized to the person that it is, but when you break that apart, when you're actually trying to examine the wall between your community and their community, and sincerity goes a long way. You could do social media, you could do emails, but sometimes as simple as a phone call, and listen, even after a presentation gone wrong, listen, all of that presentation went really well, and I would love to steal 15 minutes from you to help me, and I thought that of everyone in that room, I thought you're the person I should be talking to about this. And the thing is, that does two things, three things actually. Number one, it shows that you're human. They're not dealing with a company or a business or a startup. They are dealing with the human being. Number two, it strokes your ego a little bit. Hey, I want your opinion. How many people ever say that? It's like, I want your opinion. Most people are like, I don't need other people's opinions. This is not a freaking vote. My business is not a democracy. My ideas, my dream is not going to be crowdsourced. You know? But asking someone that question, especially phrasing it that way, will help them feel like, wow, you know what? I am kind of important. I'm kind of badass. Yeah. Those guys did do something wrong. And the third thing that it does is it takes you out of the I'm trying to get you to try this or to buy this. I put those in the same category because trying requires time investment, which might as well be money. Try this or buy this. Now put you from that and say, hey, you come at it from a different angle, and could you help us do a better job for the next hospital or the next group of doctors that I'm in front of? So does that make sense?
Yeah, that's interesting. So if you have one group, always getting their feedback helps you move to the next group. And it'll also help you narrow down whether you're talking to the right community or if you need to move on, right?
Yeah, and sometimes when I was in the healthcare IT space, I actually did recruiting in healthcare IT. So I was dealing with tons of highly technical people, and oftentimes I would just ask outright, I was like, yeah, I keep on hitting a bunch of brick walls here. Who do I need to be talking to?
Mhm.
Who do I need to be talking to? And that, anyone that's ever worked in a sales environment has dealt with that before, but a lot of people starting businesses, especially in the healthcare space, don't have that kind of direct sales experience. So aren't as comfortable with that. But just the brutal honesty, just asking, sometimes it'll blow up in your face. Sometimes they'll hang up. Sometimes the worst thing they could possibly do is ignore you. But even a strong reaction like that from somebody after your initial exploration into the community didn't work out. I've had situations where I was like, you know what? I'm going to join the Chamber of Commerce and I'm going to rock that. Someone like me, it's a bunch of small business owners. It's like shooting fish in the barrel. And I get out there and I'm like, yeah, hey, everybody, buy from me, this guy right here. And just, whoa, it's like that first Batman movie with the shield, like it's like rapid fire. The shield's around. I was like, oh no! Not only was I rejected, but I was like super rejected. It's like if I'm trying to ask a girl for a number and she, you know. So, anyways, we actually do have a guest with us today, and I would love to hear his thoughts on this. I'm going to do a quick intro. One of my clients and friends, Dr. Zain Hakim, is an osteopath out of Austin. He's actually spent time in the healthcare IT space. He has an app that he's sold before, so he actually understands both worlds. He spent time in traditional medicine and the more alternative medicine, so he has a really unique approach, and I'd love to get his thoughts on what it's like to have people, as a doctor, people trying to sell stuff to you.
Oh, great.
So, I'll say a couple things. First, I do like what you said about sincerity. Doctors are kind of hardwired, contrary to popular belief sometimes, to want to help. And so if someone gives you a problem, almost no matter how obscure or unrelated to your field it is, there's this sort of desire to be helpful. So it's a good strategy. That said, also, we are sold to all the time. From pharmaceutical companies to equipment reps to so on and so forth, there's a lot of selling going on, and so on some level it's also a matter of kind of distinguishing yourself from the background to say, hey, this is new. Like, why is this different than something I've seen before? And we are always looking to kind of do better ourselves. So we understand that you're trying to do better, and we also are eager to find that next great thing that's going to help us help our patients. So I think it can be a very powerful alliance, and if you can tap into that, I think the sales can go on. I will say this too, at least. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I would love to ask a question, but please go ahead and finish.
Just wrapping that up was when I was trying to sell the app, the other reality is that it was just about getting out there. I feel like every time I gave a lecture to some doctors or group of students, I had a certain percentage that bought it and a certain percentage that didn't. And, I haven't lectured on that topic in a while, and consequently I haven't sold a whole lot on it.
Yeah.
Were you going to say, Cynthia?
Yeah, my question is, well, it's actually an observation. So one of my friends is in his residency at the VA, and he's a DO as well. And he's been telling me about his experience there and how, he is realizing that practicing medicine these days has a lot more to do with data entry for the physician, and I think there's this general frustration with technology with the clinicians or just the healthcare staff in general at the VA hospital. And so it seems like, just like we're being information overload from all angles, in general, it seems like physicians, the role of the physician is kind of in flux and changing rapidly, and and technology may be kind of a thorn in their side right now. Can you say a little bit about that and how we might mitigate that?
Sure. And again, so I was actually also a programmer in a previous life, and so I experience, and I work as a locum doctor, so I work at hospitals all over Texas. All of them are using different electronic records, electronic systems, and technology is a bit of a thorn in our side, and part of that is that the electronic technology, in some sense, was forced to go live before it was ready. And what I mean by that is, I've worked at hospitals that are in tiny towns that are still using paper. And all doctors that I've talked to have still that no electronic system they've worked with has been as good as paper. And so moving from a non-tech space into a tech space, there's been an increase in our workload in that regard. And as a sort of my roots in technology, I see the problems in a lot of ways. Is that the design of the technology was not done with the physician's workflow in mind, or the nurse's workflow, actually, for that matter. And so the way to mitigate that is at the root of having user input at a much earlier stage than it's usually taken in most implementations. Does that address kind of your question, or was there more to it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess if you can, like before you go and market to doctors, if you actually can have them involved in the process of the, development, then it sounds like that's what you're prescribing.
Yes, that would be. And the question is not just how can this help you, because I think I love the idea of electronic records and electronic technology and apps and so on and so forth. I think they could be incredibly helpful and revolutionize the way I practice in a very positive way. But what I've seen is the exact opposite, is apps and programs that actually take more effort and more time to do simple tasks, from my point of view. And so it's not that... Go ahead.
Oh, we've got one more question.
Sure.
Hey guys, this is Barry. Thanks for taking the time tonight. Let me just give you one situation, and you can help me in my non-marketing sense. If I have a B2C type of application, and I have a system that costs a lot of money every month, and I have something that's relatively cheap to rent every month, so I have my two cases. When you start hitting those roadblocks like you talked about, the natural instinct is to say I'm priced too high, and you start shaving off the monthly subscription. And we all know that we want free software for the rest of our life with all the tech support we can get. But what is the feasibility in a very short term out to get some paying customers that are also providing you that feedback, and then either adding more services later on that allows you to add price back to the subscription? I'm just wondering your feedback or your observation on low cost and high cost B2C with using price to try to establish yourself in the market.
Could I hop on this one real quick?
Sure. Go ahead. Are you turning me?
No. Okay.
Did you
all
need
the screens in front of me? It's very space age.
Need me
I'm
to
going to use an
summarize
example actually of when I first met Zane, because once I started dipping into the healthcare space with my business, I realized how much I didn't know. So what I did is he didn't need what I was selling to begin with. He didn't need it. What he wanted is someone to teach him how to do some website stuff. And so I taught him how to do some of that. I taught him marketing geek kind of stuff. And then there came a point that even though he's my customer, he's my client directly, and even though I wasn't changing my prices. I was able to increase my value with him.
Important point.
As I started uncovering new tactics, I was like, hey, Zane, I'd call him up on the cell phone and be like, hey, I just saw this really, really cool campaign the other day that could totally work for you. And that he could use himself. I started finding other ways of being valuable within that context. So the short answer to your question is you need to become friends with these people. That is the short answer. And that's why mapping the ecosystems and mapping the communities are so important, because it's easy to make friends if you talk and are kind of friendly and have something interesting to say every once in a blue moon. Making friends is easy. You need to be making friends in the right places. And oftentimes it has nothing to do with your product or your pricing. Value of that product is determined by the value proposition stuff, but it's also determined by someone saying, hey, you need to buy that. Or having someone that has authority, like a well-respected or well-connected doctor, that has the authority to say, hey, world, hey, my community, you need to buy this. I mean, this thing has revolutionized my practice, or this thing has changed my life. And by getting someone of authority to say that, to get them to say that, the easiest way to do it is just to make friends with them. And but you cannot do that with everyone. That is why it is important that you uncover these things. While you guys are answering that question, I don't know if this is even readable.
Yeah, I can say it.
This is where the concept of influencers come in. And influencer, just quick definition, and I want to loop back and have Zane address this question as well. Is the main anchor of influence is authority. Authority is not how smart you are or have the letters behind your name. Authority means that you could speak and people will listen. Okay, you have influence. Influencers influence buying decisions. Buying decisions. They have that level of authority in their community and with their fans that they influence buying decisions. And which is a big decision. Opening your wallet is a big deal these days. Number two, they have fans. They have people that, more than the average Joe, most people's circle of friends might be 20, 50, 100. But they've got fans. They've got people that are listening to them. Number three, they have an open communication channel with their fans. There are people that influence buying decision, have a bunch of people that love them, but they don't communicate with their fans. In this case, it could be social media, a newsletter, events, workshops, a classroom, even professors. A lot of professors have tons of influence. And in that space, making friends with the right people, and I'm talking friends, like you're going to invite them over to a party to your house. You remember their kid's birthday. I'm not talking manufactured friends, and that runs in the face of everything anyone ever says about business. They keep business life and your personal life separate. Well, excuse my language, but fuck that. Business is hard. It is hard. Lots of hours. You're freaking sweat and blood when you're starting a business and getting rejection. It is really hard. And why would I want to spend all my day hitting my head against a brick wall of people that I don't like? If you map out those communities and spend time with those people, you'll find the type of people you like. And they'll eventually like you, and then you just ask. And in certain cases, I've had clients tell me, Nate, you need to raise your prices. So lowering the price is usually always the wrong answer. Adjusting how you pitch the product will help, but finding people that are influential, saying good things about you will raise the value of your product, so people will be more willing to spend the money. So that's just my more than 2 cents. So, all right, Zane?
I actually have two different responses there, and the first is more of a mistake on my part. So, for instance, my app, at my partner's insistence, we priced it 99 cents. And I still think that was a mistake. I think we underpriced that. And as a result, we've still never broken even on the product in terms of development and what we paid to get it out there. And then part of that was we were very idealistic, and we thought the idea of the product was important, and we didn't want to create barriers of money because we were trying to teach residents to think this was, to us, and still is, one of the most powerful ideas in medicine that we were trying to get out. One of the most poorly understood ideas in medicine. So that we had conflicting goals there in some sense, but from a business standpoint, I think we underpriced that, and if we were relying on that business in any monetary sense, would have been a huge problem. Because the sale of the product was not dependent on the price. It wasn't a game app. You know, the people that understood the value of it and wanted to explore the idea were going to buy it. And exactly what Nate said is, if we had the relationship with the residents, we had the relationship with their, not just them as people, but them in terms of their interest in medicine and their trust in our authority, if I can borrow your word, Nate, our authority to speak on how medicine should be practiced, they would have had no problem spending $5, you know, or more. And so to answer your question, I think we tried that. We tried cutting the price, and in the long run, I think it was a mistake. The other flip side of what you said about authority and influence is authority on some level from awareness, but it ultimately comes from trust. And it's often, you know, I was having this discussion with another physician the other day that doctors seem to have less authority than they used to, and my response was because our patients trust us less because we don't spend as much time anymore. And once you've spent an hour with someone, as you said, in an emotionally open, communicative way, that you really are making a connection. It's not your typical business transaction with your 5-minute visit with your doctor trying to get an antibiotic. When you have that honest communication, then you develop authority because there is trust, and there is a real relationship underlying the things that you say.
All right.
I hope that was on point.
That was dynamite, and I love that. I love your phrase, real relationship. And that's something people confuse a lot, especially when you're starting out. It's even if you've got a big business background and you're comfortable swimming in that pond. When you're starting out with a new business venture or a new project, those first few customers, if it is a good product and a good service, they will be happy to pay. And they always say, like, you know, push it out to your friends, your family, leave no stone unturned, and that is a good place to start. But ultimately, you need to be investing your time in the area that your fans spend your time. Zane mentioned earlier about that when he was lecturing on the topic that his app helped address, it actually led to more sales. And it got in front of a lot of people. And the one of the things an influencer could help you do is they could get you in front of a lot of people. They could get you in that room with your 30 most primo potential customers. And oftentimes that's why you need to look at how influential they actually are. Look at the different areas. Are they influencing by decisions? Do they have fans? Do they have communication channels with the fans? And one of their communication channels involves an in-person visit. Like if they're on the workshop circuit or a lecture circuit, even better. So they could get you in front of the right people. And to develop that real relationship, you got to scratch backs. And I'll rattle off a few quick examples of ways that you could scratch someone's back. You can compliment them. You could compliment them on something that they did publicly. Because you genuinely think it. You genuinely think it. Anything that could come from you, that's genuine. So if you feel yourself stretched and it was like, yeah, that was a great video you just did, and if it wasn't that great, I wouldn't say it. Because they didn't know if they didn't do something awesome. If they put out a product that you really admire. And oftentimes, these interdependent communities, these other communities that intersect with your target community, they also have interesting things. I mean, actually, it was Zane that told me that, I think it was Whole Foods, or was it was one of the swankier, healthy grocery stores. They actually offered free classes to their customers. And so all this time investing doctors, who influences a doctor's buying decision? How do you get in the room with a bunch of doctors? In certain cases, if I were to do it, and I said, Nate, here's the challenge. I need you to sell to 30 doctors, and you can't talk to the doctors directly to begin with. I would talk to people that do other stuff that are in that space. I would, frankly, even though pharmaceutical reps aren't exactly the most celebrated job out there, they know all of the doctors. And the good ones, I would find a retired pharmaceutical rep. And just ask them, hey, where should I be hanging out? Because you know what? All the doctors go to this bar after work. Then you should be at that bar. Buy some drinks. So, anyways, do we have any more? I think we got time for probably one, perhaps two more questions. Cynthia, is there anyone else out there that?
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, we're at the very early stage of an app that's targeting primary care medical doctors.
Okay.
And we're trying to do what you suggested earlier on, which is get some beta sites and get a physician's input, like a clinic owner, get a physician owner to give us input on the product app that we're developing. But in getting these beta sites on, like 4 or 5 recruiting beta sites, it's a little challenging. And I wondered if you had any tips on that, how to get a doctor to sort of say, hey, I'm here to help you, give you advice, etc., but also give their time, into something that won't be theirs ultimately, right? The intellectual property stays with our development process. So how do you recruit a clinic as a beta site to kind of give you input early on so that you can refine your product before it goes to the market?
Now that is a fantastic and actually tricky question. Challenging one. The short answer is that you need to find what else they value. What else does this physician value? There may be another skill you have outside of things where you could help them. And it doesn't have to be business related. I've had clients that just needed someone to vent to for the day, and the fact that I happen to be their shoulder to cry on, they open up their black book for me and open up their brain for me. In other cases, there's always something else you have of value. The currency isn't always cash and time. It isn't always cash and time. Usually is, but it isn't always that. So find other ways of helping them. Look at what doctors that do a lot of volunteering. Make sure you're in the same work party with this doctor. Find a way to share experiences with this people. This is a very slow way of doing it, but if you want the high quality, these real relationships that Dr. Hakeem referred to, if you want a real relationship with someone in that space, you have to find other venues. And that, once again, when you're mapping out the ecosystem, where do these people give? Are they big brothers or big sisters? Are they volunteering at their church? Do they work at do they volunteer time at a certain free clinic? Because in that case, you're going in with the most pure of intentions. And yes, you need help, and it is okay. It's like, yeah, I've even said to people, it's like, listen, I'm going to help you. I'll come in once a month to help you with your nonprofit. Here's what I want. You are really, really good in this space. And this particular example was someone in the publishing area. And I know nothing. I know jack shit about publishing. So I will pour my heart and soul into this volunteer time, but I would love to get some time from you. And in other cases, you need to go slower, but it's okay stating your intentions, because that's what? That's being genuine. That's being authentic, and it is a rare thing these days. And most of the time, it will be rewarded. So tell them exactly what you want, but always tell them what you can give them first. And find out what their currency is. Everyone has multiple currencies they work in. So, and Zan, what do you think about that question?
So, I mean, I'm trying to come up with an answer that's less trite than what occurred to my mind, but I'll tell you just the first thought. And the reason I say it's trite is because it's not very sort of nitty-gritty specific, but the sales pitches that work on me are the ones where I believe. At the end of the day, I just believe that this is going to be a positive impact on medicine or a positive impact on my practice. And if you can get that buy-in, even without an intellectual, I mean, sure, I'd love to have my name as an acknowledgement somewhere on the app in the back, on the last page, right? But just to contribute to the development of something that's really great, you know, that I can tell my friends, hey, yeah, that thing you're using now, I helped develop that, right? And I have to believe that it's going to go there, that at the end of the day, the other doctors that I work with are also going to be excited about it once it's in its final form. And if you can get me to get on board with that vision, you're going to have a lot easier time getting time and energy out.
All right. Sorry. Joys of being a dad here. No, usually I try to hustle your kids out the door, but my daughter is on top of it. She's going to karate classes. She's like, yeah, going to karate. And now, anyways, I told Seth before, I was like, Seth, you know how long-winded I get? You please? And he actually just sent me a text message and a chat message. Dude, it's 5:30. I've already had my kid remind me like 8 times that Dad got to go to karate. And interestingly enough, you know where I found my biggest influencer for my business? Was my daughter's karate instructor. Because you know what he used to do before? He used to work with nonprofits in the mental health arena. That's what he did before.
Okay, I should meet him.
Yeah, I meet him. He kicks my butt in class twice a week. So, so I've already invested in that. I invest my time there and my money. And he said, whatever you need at all, let me know. And this is the last bit of advice I'll give you. Whenever you're feeling that urge to be like, okay, I feel like I've got some rapport here. I feel like they're going to let me in. If you ever get to that point, you say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. Don't do it. If you could just hold yourself back one time, a little bit of restraint that one time. Interact first, sell second. And a true human interaction, not this, hey, let's go out for coffee. If I get invited for another lame coffee meeting, I'm going to throw up in my mouth, seriously. I don't want to do a coffee meeting anymore, all right? Beer works. If they don't drink, find out what they do like. Find out what kind of food they like. Find out where they like to hang out. Maybe they like to play Frisbee. Do something crazy. And the people that respond to the true you, I don't like going to coffee meetings, so I'm going to be like, yo, let's go get Vietnamese noodle soup. It's at the cheapest place in town. Cheapskate over here, usually a bad sales tactic, but I've had the people that have responded to that are the ones that have become my business advisors, my clients, and my friends. Because I mapped it out first. And I used the Vietnamese noodle house angle, and the people that responded to it was like, oh yeah, they must be cool. and it worked out all right. So everyone that's listening in today and that's in the room today gets a free one-on-one session with either me or Seth. And it's just training. This is not us selling you anything. If you catch us selling, feel free to ask us for something more if you catch me selling. But yeah, anything that we talked about today, if you need to go over, if you want to try out some different tactics or go through some different cold approaches or work on distilling narrowing your target a little bit, or look at some of the other technology platform, whatever it is that you need help with in the marketing space, we'll schedule a call, and I'll usually do it over a video, and I'll teach you how to do it. So, and what do I want in return? Tell your friends, because honestly, that is what I do want. Because I want people that are out there hustling to say, hey, this is a fellow hustler, and you should spend money with them. And I would love to be able to say that about everyone watching now. It's like, yeah, this guy's he's out there and working it. This stuff is awesome, and he loves noodle soup as much as I do. So, anyways, thank you.
Bye, Nate. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, cheers.
Thanks, Nate.